Welcome to the madness!
Hey, how's it going, folks? The name's Steffi, and welcome to my brand new solo play series of the solo RPG 4 Gates of Darkness by Andrea Sifagoe. And I do offer my humblest apologies if I mispronounce that. So 4 Gates of Darkness. I came across this solo RPG a good few months ago, and I put it on a backlog, and every once in a while I was reading through the PDF, and the more I read it, the more I wanted to play it. And that time is now. So, I took a big break from solo RPG stuff with Dungeons & Dragons, so I thought we'll get back into the whole solo play thing with a, brand new game, basically. So, 4 Gates of Darkness is best described as a dungeon crawl game where you create a party of 4, and using a combination of 2 6-sided die, you roll on numerous tables to randomize outcomes and to face different types of enemies. And to be honest with you, it is very, very, very simple to organize and play. Apparently, according to the manual itself, or the PDF, or the book itself, apparently it takes roughly around an hour to learn all of it, and once you've learned it, an average play is roughly around 45 minutes, so you could potentially just keep playing this over and over and over with different outcomes. It's very nice. Now, for this first episode, I was debating whether to go through the entire PDF or to do things as we go along. So I thought I would do a little bit of both. So I'm going to read the first few pages of 4 Gates of Darkness, explain how things work, and then as we get to certain stages of the book, that's when we start incorporating actual play. So, I'm going to, by the way, there will be a link in the description to a website called Drive-Thru RPG. This is where I got my copy, so you guys are free to buy it and go support the author. Very nice. Okay, so scrolling down, we have 4 Gates of Darkness, written and illustrated by Andrea Sifagoe, some art by Heather Shin and J.M. Waika of the Sticky Goblin. Again, so I'm going to butcher some of these pronunciations, I apologize in advance. Some art by Jack Bandashki, edited by Craig White-Leighton. Dungeon Flowchart by Victor Hiamos. Pocket booklets formatted by West Camp. And obviously we've got some playtesters here. And yeah, just thought I'd give credibility to the book. The artwork is absolutely amazing, to tell you the truth. Okay, so going on to the contents, we have classes and racial classes we could play as. There's 8 in total. Mixture of different encounter tables, random tables, that kind of stuff. Okay, so introduction. So, this is an old school dungeon bastion solo game that can be played with minimum space and equipment. You need pencil, 2 dice, and graph paper. But for me, I'm using Paint 3D. You can also play on a dry erase whiteboard, or even use any dungeon tiles already in your possession. You can play solo or play cooperative, sharing your characters with a friend or 2. You control a party of 4 heroes who adventure into a dungeon generated by dice rolls. If you have miniatures, you may use them to mark their marching order, but this is also non-essential. The game can also be played with 2 players, each running a party of dungeon explorers and taking turns to generate 1 room each. As the parties advance through different paths, in this case roll a die to determine which party goes first. So why 4? A party of 4 characters is the optimal to have enough variety of abilities. 4 characters are not too difficult to control for a single player, and allow for the occasional non-player character joining the party. If you play cooperative, the game can work with larger numbers with some modifications. Try running 3 adventurers per player, doubling the number of all monsters and treasure found, and increasing the difficulty of non-monster traps, saves, etc. by 1. So length of the game. Your first game will take a bit longer than an hour. After you familiarize yourself with the mechanics, a typical solo game lasts about 45 minutes. Cooperative games last longer due to the discussions and arise among participants. And here's the important thing. Monsters roll no dice. That's right, so we do the rolling, we do all the rolling, which just makes playing so streamlined, it's amazing. So monsters roll no dice. All the rolls in the game are performed by characters. The power and danger level of a monster is indicated by a number. That is the monster's level. When the character attacks, they perform attack rolls and compare them with the monster's level to determine if the monsters are killed. When it is the monster's turn to attack, your characters perform defense rolls versus the monster's level, taking wounds if they fail. This system right here is so amazing. Like, seriously. Like, when you look at the description of the monsters later on, and it says what level it is, basically, most of the average level of the monsters I came across in the tables are roughly around level 3, right? So, basically, when you roll a d6, there's different modifiers to add and to take away, in its simplest terms. But a 50% chance to hit and 50% chance to evade an attack is actually pretty nice. And then obviously as you face the more dangerous monsters, that level goes up. So yeah, so just to reiterate, if you want to attack a monster, you gotta beat the level. If you want to defend from the monster, you gotta roll equal or past the level as well. So dice codes. The game uses regular 6-sided die anointed as d6. We use the following dice codes. So d6 is roll 8 dice. d6 plus 1 is roll a die and add 1 to the result. 2d6, roll 2 dice and add them. 2d6 plus 1, roll 2 dice and add them together and add 1 to the total. d6 times d6, roll 2 die and multiply the result of the 1 die by the other, generates a number from 1 to 36. d6 minus 1, roll 1 die and subtract 1 from the result, generates a number of 0 to 5. d6 plus L is roll a die and add the character's level, very important for later on for certain classes. d6 plus half L, roll a die and add half the character's level rounded down, again a bonus for certain rolls. And d66, first 2 dice of different colour, first resulting as 10s and second resulting as units, generates a number from 11 to 66. And also as well we have explosive 6 rule. Whenever you roll a 6 performing any character action, immediately roll a d6 and add the result to the total. This is cumulative. If you roll another d6, roll again and again to the total. With enough luck, you can roll any number in combat. This will let you kill multiple minions with a lucky blow. In other situations, it'll let a character save against threat higher than 6. So yeah, kind of like your critical factor of, you know, your critical roll in D&D, your crit 20 basically. But to add other 6s to it is, honestly, I've not had this happen to me in a practice play, but yeah, it's pretty cool actually. Okay. So obviously it's going over the different classes here. I'm going to go over the classes in depth in a second. Because it'll be on the agenda, so you don't have to worry about that. You can print out a copy of the party sheet. There's another thing about this the book or the PDF. You have play sheets and stuff underneath at the bottom or at the back of the book where you can take the screenshots or copies. You got a play sheet, you got equipment, you have monsters defeated. You got some extra stuff there, which is pretty nice, which is included. So when we're creating the first party, when we're creating a party, all characters begin at first level. It's first level adventurers. The max level is 6, and the leveling up system is actually quite interesting. Again, I'll go over that when we get to it. So characters described by his name, level, and character type. For example, Virgo, level 2 rogue. Each character's attack value, describing how powerful he is in combat, a defense value, describing how well protected he is or how skilled he is in parries or dodging, and a life value, the number of wounds that a character can take before dying. The profile sheet has spaces for the character's special skills, such as a wizard spells, treasure, and equipment. Okay, create your party. At the beginning of the game, your 4 heroes are just starting out their adventure career. They're all level 1. Each belongs to one of the classes described below. Traits are the rules that differentiate a class from others. Skills, equipment that the character can use, and limitations. Each class list also includes some basic equipment and a few coins. So, let's go over the class system. So the first class is the warrior class. So the warrior class is your bread and butter frontline fighter. So they can, basically, frontline fighter. So the trait that they have is that a warrior can add his level to his attack rolls, which is so important. So these guys are specialized in killing. There's another class that can do the same thing as well. So just to go back to the whole like d6 rolling against a monster's level thing. So whenever we make an attack roll with the warrior, again taking other modifiers out the picture and just adding this one, because at level 1 they could do a d6 plus 1. So if we rolled a 2, you add the warrior's level and becomes a 3, and that's an automatic hit. And as the warrior gets on the levels, that comes from a +1 to a +2, +3, +4 to a maximum of a +6, where basically you'll be hitting a lot with a warrior, and that's what it specializes in, which is absolutely amazing. A warrior may use a shield, light armor, heavy armor, and any weapon. So yeah, so a shield. So they're taking typical role-playing equipment. You know, shield, light armor, heavy armor. There's no medium armor, just light and heavy. And any weapon. There's 2 different types. Well, excuse me. There's 3 different types of weapons you can use. Again, we'll go over that in the items. So having access to all of them is pretty nice. So starting equipment. Warrior begins the game with light armor, shield, and a hand weapon. Again, I'll go over the different types of weapons we can have. He may trade his shield and hand weapon in for a two-handed weapon or a bow if he wants. So you can turn him into an archer, or you can give him like a great sword, for example. There is pros and cons to different weapon selections. Starting wealth is 2d6 gold pieces, so you roll down for a maximum of 12. And life points is 6 plus level. A first level warrior has 7 life. Now, talking about life points. If you manage to get a hit on an enemy, or you get hit by an enemy, if you hit an enemy or you get hit by them, what happens is you don't roll any damage dice. Instead, you take an automatic -1 to your life. So, in this case, the warrior can withstand 7 attacks before he or she eventually succumbs. So it's very, very, very important you remember that. So the second class we have is the cleric. So the cleric is your traditional healer, anti-undead specialist. So for the cleric, a cleric can add half. By the way, I know it's just using the he pronoun a lot. I mean, obviously this was just for default, so I'm just going to say he. I mean, you know, excuse me. But eventually later on, we'll have different genders as well. So a cleric adds half his level rounded down to his attack rolls, and his full level when he attacks undead creatures. So, but this means that if we were a level 2 cleric, for example, when we're facing non-undead, we would only add a +1 to our attack roll, because, you know, half of 2 is 1, rounded down. And when we're facing undead creatures, such as a skeleton or a zombie, we add that +2 to the attack roll instead of a +1. So that's what I mean by having like an undead specialist. Very nice. He may wear light or heavy armor, use a shield, a hand weapon, a two-handed weapon, or a sling. Now, clerics get a couple of abilities they have. First of all, they get the blessing spell, so they can cast up to 3 times per adventure, and a cleric may use healing power 3 times per game. Now, if you're playing this out for the first time, this caught me the first time. I didn't read this properly. I thought the blessing spell and the healing power was the same thing. It's not. It's 2 different things. So, allows the cleric... So, the blessing spell is his own spell in its spell list, which we'll go over later on. The healing power allows the cleric to heal a number of life points equal to d6 plus his level. So in this case, again, second level cleric, roll a d6, it's a 2, we add our level to it, so we heal for 4 hit points. The cleric may use healing at any moment, even during a fight, but he may not attack on the same turn in which he heals somebody. So in battle, every character has an action. You don't have to attack. There's other things you can do as well. Some very minor actions that you can take. Again, I'll explain as we go along. But yeah, if we're in combat, that's your action. Can't do anything else. May not attack on the same turn in which you heal somebody. A cleric may use healing on himself or a friend. So starting equipment, we have light armor, shield, hand weapon. We trade in shield and hand weapon for a two-handed weapon. Clerics usually prefer crushing weapons because of the chance of meeting skeleton rest is pretty high. And going on to that note, there is some enemies that will have different modifiers applied to them depending on what weaponry you have. So for example, as I mentioned about the skeletons, they will get, I believe it's a +1 to your attack modifier if you attack them with a crushing weapon. So yeah, so if you have a cleric with a two-handed crushing weapon, say a maul, they attack with their full level modifier, plus the modifier of the two-handed weapon, plus the modifier for being undead, and the attack roll altogether will be pretty high. So yeah, really nice piece of information to remember there. Starting wealth is just a d6 gold pieces, so for a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 6, and the life is 4 plus level. First level cleric gets 5 life. Alright, moving on to the next one, we have the rogue. So the rogue is your bread and butter utility character, and they actually captured some of that essence pretty nicely with the rogue. So a rogue, traits. So a rogue adds his level on rolls to disarm traps and to his defense rolls. I think it's the only class that can add his level to his defense rolls. So yeah, so rogues can be very, very evasive dependent. So a rogue may wear only light armor, but may not use heavy weapons or shields. So basically, heavy weapons is translated to two-handed weapons, basically. A rogue adds his level. This is important. A rogue only adds his level to attack rolls only when attacking an outnumbered minion. There's different enemy types, by the way. So minion, for example. An example: if the party is more numerous than a group of minions. And he gives an example: a party of 4, including a rogue, attacks 4 orcs. The party's cleric kills an orc, so now the adventurers outnumber the rogues 4 to 3. When the rogue's turn to attack comes, the rogue adds his level to his attack roll. This represents the rogue slipping past an enemy and backstabbing him in the back. So yeah, so basically, numbers is important, especially if you're using a rogue, because their attack modifier by default, if they're using a different weapon or not, again taking weapon modifiers to picture, is normally a 0, but until they outflank them, which honestly very important to have. Start equipment: a rope, lockpicks, light armor, and a light hand weapon. They start with 3d6 gold pieces, so a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 18, I believe. 6, 12, 18, yeah. Life is 3 plus level. First level rogue is 4 life, so 4 hits, and done. Alright, next class, the wizard. So the wizard is your standard spellcaster. Full spellcaster, yeah. So for traits, a wizard adds his level only when attacking with spells, or on rolls to solve puzzles or riddles. A wizard may use only light weapons or a sling. They may not wear armor or use a shield. So they can be combative in melee combat if they wanted to. So it's important. A wizard begins the game with 2 spells, plus 1 spell per level. So a first level wizard has 3 spells. The wizard must decide which spells he has prepared before starting the adventure. He may prepare multiple copies of the same spell, or any combination of the 6 spells allowed in the game. A wizard may find additional spells at adventures and add them to the repertoire of spells that he can prepare. Spells acquired, leveling up, may be used immediately. So basically what this means is there's 6 spells in the game. Again, I'll go over them in detail later on if we do get a wizard, because I'll explain how I'm going to construct the party in a few minutes. So yeah, so we start with 3 and then plus 1 for every level. So at max level, we're looking at a maximum of 9 spells, I believe. So yeah, so going off with this, you can have multiple copies, you can have different spell combinations if you wish. Obviously, as well, if you go into one adventure with a wizard and the wizard survives, you can change spells up for another dungeon if you want, so you can make them more offensive, make them more supportive. You know, there's some very good flexibility with this. Very good flexibility. Obviously, I don't want to go too in depth with the classes, you know, because I don't want to waffle on too much. I want to get to the actual gameplay. I'm pretty sure that's people I was waiting for. I mean, I've been recording for what, 20 minutes? But, you know, again, I want to go in depth as best I can, because when we continue the series later on down the line into the double digits, even more into 20s or so, depending on how much I want to play this game, I'm not going to be reiterating the rules anymore. So yeah, so starting equipment is a light hand weapon, spellbook, and rights implements. They get 4d6 gold pieces for a minimum of 4. Yeah, minimum of 4 to a maximum of 24. Life is 2 plus level. First level wizard has 3 life points. Okay, and now we get into the racial classes. Oh no, sorry, we've got 1 more generic class and then we go into the racial classes. Pardon me, 5. It's 5 generic, 3 racial. Okay, so we've got the barbarian. So the barbarian is your typical, you know, outlander, rural, tribal fighter, if you will. A barbarian adds his level to his attack rolls. A barbarian may not use a shield, may use a shield and light armor and any weapon, but a barbarian may not wear heavy armor. So, you know, bit of a step down from the fighter, but near enough along the same lines. Now, this is where one of the negatives start kicking in. From the barbarian and the other 3 racial classes, there is some kind of, I believe there'll be some kind of quirk to them, either negative or positive, and this is the first of the negatives. So, a barbarian may not use magic items, scrolls, or potions. He may grudgingly accept the healing from a cleric, since that's technically not magic, but divine favor. It may use holy water. So yeah, so in this game, we'll get magic items, scrolls, and potions. So obviously, you know, the barbarians being raised in the wastelands and being rural and, you know, non-believers of magic and all that. You know, they've captured that essence in this, and depending on your party and depending on what you have, and depending on circumstances, this could be very detrimental. I mean, for example, like a potion of healing that the barbarian's not going to take if he's very low in HP. Yeah, that could be very bad. Also, once per game, a barbarian may perform a rage attack. During a rage attack, roll the attack die 3 times and choose the best result. So super advantage for those who know D&D terms. And choose the best result. If the rage attack hits a boss monster, it inflicts 2 wounds. So as I mentioned, where if you hit a enemy, they take 1 wound or -1 hit points. With this, it's 2. And getting 2 on 1 attack on a boss monster is going to be so good. Honestly, the way bosses work in this game, honestly, getting 2 hits on 1 attack is going to be very, very useful. So starting equipment, light armor, shield and hand weapon. You may trade his shield and hand weapon for a two-handed weapon or a bow. Start pieces, D6 gold pieces for a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 6, and they have 7 plus level. The first level barbarian has 8 life points. Okay, going into the first racial class, we have the elf. So an elf can add his level up to attack rolls, and elf can advance up to the 3rd level maximum. So from this point forward with the racial classes, I believe they captured this in, I think this was originated in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, I believe. I've not played a D&D 1 first or second edition, but I believe with elves and dwarfs and stuff, I believe that they had level caps that wasn't the same maximum level as some of the other classes like fighter, thief, and cleric, I believe, and magic user, I believe it was. I don't know. My knowledge of the old D&D systems is very, very limited. I only know what I know, which is very little. Okay, so the elf can wear light or heavy armor and may use a shield. He can cast a single spell per level per adventure, but only if he's wearing light armor and not using a shield. An elf may carry a shield strapped to his back and waste 1 attack to ready the shield. So with the elf, you kind of have two different, you can kind of use them in 2 different ways. You could either use him as a frontline fighter, or you could use him as, best described as a gish, I guess. You know, sword and sorcery, if you will. So yeah, so you can use them in heavy armor. Obviously, they can't cast a spell if they're wearing light armor, not using a shield. So, you know, you can either use a bow with them or one-handed weapon. But it says here, me carry a shield strapped to the back and waste 1 attack to ready the shield. So, you know, there's it's a very, very complex class, if you ask me. Because when you're in the heat, trust me, when you're in the heat of battle or in the heat of the game, there'll be certain things you forget. I mean, I did run an elf in one of my parties, and I did forget about the whole light armor thing. I had a heavy armor, and I was going to cast a spell until I looked at this, and I thought, shit. Yeah, honestly. So yeah, so a 2nd level elf may prepare 2 spells, and a 3rd level elf may prepare 3 spells. For spellcasting purposes, the elf adds his level like a wizard. So yeah, so we can add attack rolls and magic, which is very nice. Like a wizard, an elf may find additional spells and adventures and add them to the repertoire of spells that he can prepare. Spells added when leveling up may be used immediately. Also as well, I did miss something. Yes, here we go. So an elf has a +1 to his attack or spell roll with fighting orcs. So that's the first mention of race and monster hatred. So orcs will target elves specifically, or priority. In priority, they will attack elves, and I think vice versa as well in the rulebook for elves. But yeah, I think the other 2 classes are the same as well, which we'll go over in a second. Start equipment: light armor, hand weapon, and a bow. Starting wealth is 2d6 pieces, 2d6 gold pieces. pieces. I always get confused with the word. I always get mixed up. Yeah, so that's a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 12. And 4 plus level. First level elf has 5 life points. Okay, next class is the dwarf. So a dwarf adds his level to attack rolls, except when using ranged weapons like bows, crossbows, or slings. Dwarves have a +1 to the defense rolls against trolls, or ogres, and giants, and a +1 to the attack rolls against goblins. So yeah, so trolls, ogres, and giants, and +1 against goblins. So, you know, which is pretty much making up like 60% of the bestiary, I believe, in this game. So yeah, getting a +1 for those many different types of enemies, plus other modifiers as well. It's not too bad. Yeah, attack roll is set for using ranged weapons, so basically straight melee if you wish. A dwarf can wear any armor and use any weapon. A dwarf may advance up to 4th level maximum, so he can use light or heavy armor, and he can use any weapon. Dwarves can smell gold and jewels. When you meet a monster, if you have a dwarf in your party, roll a d6 and add the dwarf's level. If the total is 6 or better, you may determine the monster's treasure before deciding to attack the monster. And in this game, if you come across an encounter through exploring a room, you have a choice between attacking or not attacking. And depending on what monster you roll on a certain table, that can be a very useful piece of information, whether you want to attack them or not. 9 times out of 10, depending on your party's condition, you might not want to, but at least you know the risk for the reward, right? Dwarves are extremely attached to the gold. A party with 2 or more dwarves may not bribe monsters, so yeah, you can bribe monsters in this game. When you find treasure that can be split, such as coin, you must always assign at least 1 coin to every dwarf in the party if possible. So you can, so basically like, each character will have their own inventory. There's no encumbrance rules, by the way. I've had a quick check, unless it's optional. But yeah, you can split treasure up, and you know you can have somebody be be the mule, I suppose. That's the word I was looking for. But yeah, but basically, if it's coin, you must assign at least 1 coin to him for the dwarves to feel at home, I suppose. Dwarves are natural goldsmith and gem experts. When you sell a gem or jewelry item, if you have a dwarf in the party, you are paid 20% more for the gem. Round factions down. Starting equipment, light armor, shield, and heavy weapon, or heavy armor and a two-handed weapon. So light armor, shield, hand weapon, or heavy armor and two-handed weaponry. Starting wealth is 3 d6 gold pieces for a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 18. And life is 5 plus 1, 6 life points. And the final class we have is the halfling. So a halfling may wear only light armor and use only light hand weapons and slings. Halflings may not use shields. Halflings add a level to the defense rolls against giant trolls and ogres. Halflings can only advance up to 3rd level maximum. Halflings have a number of luck points equal to the level plus 1. During adventure, a halfling may spend a luck point to re-roll a failed attack or defense roll, or to run away from combat without receiving an attack. See, run away from combat in the encounter section. Yeah, so you can run away from battles if you wish. You may not re-roll a re-roll, and the result of a re-roll stands, even if it was worse than the original roll. For some reason, that bit of the text always made me laugh. It always cracks me a smile when I read that. Lots of snacks, sling, and light-handed weapon. By the way, there's lots of snacks. I looked it up on Google and through different forums that I was playing for Against Darkness. Apparently, there's lots of snacks is a flavor of text, but apparently in certain pre-gen adventures that work with the 4 Against the Darkness module, something to look for in the future maybe, if we enjoy playing this, there is going to be like a survival thing where you have to have food to survive like each day or rest or something. So a lot of people say that the lots of snacks can fulfill that, or some people say that you roll a 2d6, for example, that's the amount of snacks that they bring with them on an adventure, and then each snack consumed is like 1 HP or something. So, you know, it's up to you what you want to do. For my game, I'm just going to leave it as flavor text. If there's nothing official that says what it does or what it doesn't do, in this case, like I said, it's just flavor, I'm just going to leave it like that. So starting wealth is 3d6 gold pieces, 3 plus level, 4 life points. So yeah, so that is all the classes. So going on to equipment now. So we're going to go over all the items as well. I just feel like it's best if we do. So money may be used to bribe monsters, to pay the services of healers and alchemists, to buy weapons and other equipment, or to even resurrect a dead friend. Oh, that's really simple. Okay. Alright, so in terms of what we can have, we got bandages, blessing spell, that is a cleric service, a bow, hand weapon, heavy armor, holy water vial, lantern, light armor, light hand weapon, potion of healing, resurrection ritual, again that's from the cleric, rope, shield, sling, and two-handed weapon. So we can go through this one at a time now. You may move gold pieces between characters at any time during the game, but not during combat. After all, they're friends. They may decide to pool the resource to make sure that the group's best fighter buys the best weapon they can afford, or bless his spell so a colleague turns to stone by Magista gets back to get action. So I was thinking about how I was going to do this. I was thinking, do I make a pool for all the treasure and stuff, and then like, for example, like have like a home base for parties to come and go, like maybe I don't know, I was thinking like Darkest Dungeon style, like, you know, like all the parties will pool into like this town as they go into different places for adventure and stuff, and then, you know, have like a council or some kind of like hierarchy to organize these items and equipment and stuff. But I'm not going to do that. Basically, each character is responsible for their own upgrades and for their own purchases. And I'm going to try and put myself into the shoes of the characters to think what they're going to get, what they're going to have, you know, stuff like that. I just think it's a little bit more responsible that way. Maybe even roll like an alignment thing from D&D, and then maybe that could influence my choices. Maybe, like, for example, if somebody's lawful good, maybe they might want to save the money on bandages and potions of healing, resurrections, stuff like that. Or if somebody's like more evil, they'd be more selfish. Maybe, I don't know, like maybe they're more selfish. and they want to spend the money on the best things for themselves, or maybe there might be some people that are stingy and they want to save money and maybe eventually retire from the party eventually, you know, stuff like that. I'll have to think about it. I'm not thought about it yet. So anyway, going into the actual items itself, you have bandages. Each character can apply bandages once per adventure, healing 1 lost life. The effect of bandages is cumulative magical healing for potions or spells. Bandages may not be applied during combat. So yeah, so very, very low level item that can heal. But again, it's only once per adventure, so you know, best used in emergency situations in my opinion. The blessing spell, the characters play the local church to cast a blessing spell to remove a gain condition such as cursed or turn to stone from a party member. So remember, the clerics have 3 uses of this. So, you know, at least they'll save you a good bit of money, but if you don't have a cleric, that's the only way you're going to do it. Alright, so the bow and the slings, this is important. So, this lets the character perform a single attack before the monsters can act even when the monsters act before the party. So as soon as combat starts, before, you know, when combat starts, when you choose to attack them or you don't, basically you can make an attack with the bow, kind of like a first strike initiative kind of thing. It's pretty cool. And then the bow may no longer be used as the monsters and the characters are assumed to be in close combat. The bow user will need to spend a turn to put away the bow and draw another weapon. So yeah, so that's your action basically if you're going to use that. Arrows are considered slasher weapons, and it's interesting. You may assume that the character carries all arrows that you'll need, and that his quiver gets replenished between games. If you do not mind the additional bookkeeping, you may keep track of how many arrows the character uses. The character begins the game with a quiver of 12 arrows. All the arrows used in the game are lost to damage. A character can buy more arrows that cost 6 gold pieces per dozen. A maximum a character is 48. So the way I'm going to rule that is, if I do get a bow user, I'm just going to ignore this and just say that I have all the arrows they possibly can. And then maybe later on, once I get some more experience, or it might be something later on like, say, the local Fletchers are on strike or a business, and basically the remaining arrows you do have to buy, you know, stuff like that maybe. So, handed weapon is a standard weapon like a sword, axe, or mace. Choose whether you want a crushing or slashing weapon. And we're going into the armor now. So we got light armor and heavy armor. So each will add a plus X to your defense modifier. So in this case, a suit of heavy armor adds a +2 to the wearer's defense rolls. Certain attacks from monsters will ignore this bonus. Heavy armor makes the wearer slow, so in certain cases, the character will have negative modifier on its save rolls. Heavy armor decides to fit one wearer, so you may not reassign it to another character if the original wearer dies. And that is very, very important. And heavy armor is really good, but at the same time, very detrimental. Holy water vial. Holy water is purified water created by high-level clerics through a lengthy procedure of chanting and purification in a silver basin. A vial of heavy water is thrown as an attack against a creature susceptible to it, vampires, demons. Automatically inflicts 1 wound upon the creature. The church restricts the use of holy water, so a party may buy a maximum of 1 vial per creature. So really, getting 4 automatic hits if every party buys a vial is super strong. Again, and most creatures will have average of 3 to 4 life, so you can instantly kill a creature just like that if need be. Now this is very important. Lantern. A party must have at least 1 lantern and assign it to a character. That character must use 1 hand to carry the lantern and may not use a bow, a shield, or a 2-handed weapon. If the lantern bearer is killed, another character must pick the lantern up at the end of the current combat. He may also decide to carry more than 1 lantern just in case. So this is important because the game assumes that the dungeons are very, very dark. As in like no natural light or torches or anything like that. And there's no such thing as dark vision from like D&D terms. And yeah, I do use Dungeons & Dragons as a foundation for me to spread out to some of these other games just to act as a little bit of a reference point, I suppose. But basically it has somebody with a lantern, very important. Light armor. Light armor adds +1 to the wearer's defense rolls. Certain attacks from monsters ignore this bonus. When the original wearer dies, you may reassign light armor to another wearer of the same species. A dwarf's light armor will fit another dwarf, but not an elf, halfling, or human. So yeah, so basically when it comes to fits, yeah, so the generic classes, the barbarian, the wizard, the rogue, fighter, and cleric, if you use light armor, they can swap it between themselves if they die. But when it comes to elves, halflings, and dwarfs, you can't switch. You got to keep them on the same race. So if you have 2 elves, for example, one of them perishes, you give the light armor to them. But, you know, depending on the class, they'll already have light armor anyway, so we'll see. So light hand weapons. This weapon gives the user a -1 on attack rolls. Choose whether the weapon deals crushing or slashing damage. So hand weapons and light hand weapons. Light hand weapons are -1. Normal hands are just a +/-0. It's very important to remember. Okay, potion healing. Drinking the content of this vial, even in the middle of an encounter, will restore a character's life to his initial level. No character may drink more than 1 potion of healing per adventure. So, a character's life to his initial level. I was never too sure about this bit. I think initial level means the level of the character. Yeah. So basically max life, I believe. Yeah, max life, I believe, especially if you use it only once. Resurrection spell that's bought between games of a chance to resurrect a dead party member. I don't know if this is chance-based. I've not used this yet. Rope. This may be necessary to side up a defeat monster. Again, have you came across a situation where you use rope. Shields. This gives a +1 to the user's defense rolls. This bonus does not apply when the combat is fleeing. This bonus does not apply when the combat is fleeing from combat or when he's surprised by wandering monsters. So when attacks from monsters will ignore the shield bonus. So if you're using heavy armor and a shield, you got a +3 to your attack roll, and depending on certain enemies, like I said, the average level as far as I came across is 3. That's an automatic miss regardless of what you roll. Except if you roll a 1, which again I'll go over later on. Now the sling, this weapon works like a bow, but at -1. So the bow is a 0, and slings is a -1. Bullets from a sling are treated as crushing weapons, so yeah, same rules applied. You can attack them before the monster hits. Or the monster acts, pardon me. So two-handed weapon. This weapon requires 2 hands to be used, so the user cannot carry a shield or a lantern, but gives a +1 to the wielder's attack rolls. So that's what I mean by when I was talking about the cleric with a 2-handed weapon getting a +1. Choose whether you want your 2-handed weapon to deal crushing or slashing damage. So this one I'm going to talk about crushing or slashing. So, crushing weapons are blunt trauma weapons that are better against fragile weapons like skeletons that would break under the blows. Example, crushing light hand weapons is club, staff, cudgel, shillelagh, joystick, nunchaku, walking stick, wizard staff. Crushing hand weapons is metal rod, mace and hammer. Crushing 2-handed weapons, maul, warhammer, huge war club, quarterstaff. And crushing missile weapons, which is talking about the sling or throwing stick. Slashing weapons are bladed pointed weapons that inflict damage by cutting and puncturing. They may be envenomed, and yes, you can envenom weapons. Examples: slashing light hand weapons, dagger, knife, short sword. Slashing hand weapons, sword, axe, rapier, saber, spear. Slashing long spear, 2-handed sword, halberd, naginata, glaive, and simple missile weapons, bow and crossbow. Some weapons are hit at +1 by the right weapon type and at -1 by the wrong weapon type. You may carry more than 1 weapon during combat, or spend a turn to exchange weapons. Note on your profile your default weapon on your profile. That's the one you'll be wielding when wandering monsters sneak on you or enter a room, so you can't change beforehand, only when you're out of combat or you're in the same room. Of course, selling equipment. If you sell equipment, you get half its cost in GP rounded down. Magical equipment may be sold but not bought. Potions and enchanted rings may be sold at 50 GP. Wands, scrolls, and staves 100. For every spell they contain, other magical equipment will net you d6 times d6. Magic equipment described in adventures or supplements will have their own GP cost. And that's the introduction to the classes and the spells. Sorry, the classes and the items, sorry. We'll go over the spells if we have a class that do spellcasting. So when it's talking about the weapons themselves, like, you know, like the maul, the warhammer, the huge war club, basically these are just all flavor, so you can use whatever weapon you want. I mean, you know, within its category, for example, like crushing light hand weapons or slashing light hand weapons, you can have like a dagger, a short sword, or I don't know, like a main gauche dagger, or I don't know, a Chris dagger or something like that. You know, be creative. I mean, I will be myself, but as long as it fits within the category that your character has, you know, stuff like that. Okay, so I've been recording for 14 minutes, so I'm going to include this as an episode. So I might just do this as, I don't know, I might do this as part 1, like game introduction or something. And then in the next episode, I will have created a party and we'll get straight to the actual play then. So if you're wondering how I'm going to be doing classes, how I'm going to be doing party construction, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be randomizing. And I will do that at the beginning of the next episode. So basically, I'm just going to roll Basically, just roll on the random number generator, an 8. So for example, if I go to my dice roll here on 5e tools, just go d8, 5, and I know that my first class, rogue 3, wizard 4, and I know my first class is barbarian, for example. So yeah, so basically that's gonna be it. So yeah, so I'll, like I said, beginning of the next episode, we'll start constructing our party, we'll start doing our first proper dungeon dive, and in terms of any equipment buying, apart from the standard equipment, I'll let you know. Also as well, when it comes to the generic classes, obviously all of them are going to be human, but what I might do is I might use some D&D races to spice up some of the party, and I will have some images of the people, just to, you know, add a little bit of character construction, I suppose. So that's the best way to describe it. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to end it here. So in the next episode, like I said, we're going to do our party and our first dungeon dive. So that's going to be it. So hope you guys have enjoyed this little introduction. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or any theories, or if you've played this before and you want to see something, or if you have any tips or advice. Again, please, all opinions welcome in the comments down below. And that's going to be it. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching today's episode. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Links down below, check them out if you wish. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Take care.